you have to be honest too. Like you always have to work with an honesty. If you, that shows in the work that you do. I want to sort of constantly find solutions while I'm painting. Because for me, that's the enjoyment of it in the struggle, and to go, hey, the not knowing makes it for me interesting to paint. Utility of landscape. It's a multitude. Landscape is versatile to work with. There's different. I bumped into at Kyogo one day with a friend. They were taking pictures of landscape so they could go into the studio and make a painting of landscape. Although they then don't realize they're actually making a painting of a picture of a landscape. So in that sense too, it's far better to get a multitude of awarenesses of where you are. The wind, the shade, the sun, the rain adds to this act of painting. Be aware of what you can do. Because what you can do, it doesn't matter how limited it is, you can still make beautiful works. Because in the end, the painting is not a picture, the painting is a reflection of the person who makes it. You use with what you can do, and you give that the value. And that shows in paintings, it's honesty. And that makes the simplest painting quite often the most beautiful ones, because they're honest. The painting doesn't necessarily have to refer to the landscape. The landscape suggests the painting. You flip it around, which makes it a lot easier with a trap too, that you feel challenged to come up with a perfect sort of painting of or at least of part of the landscape. And that's actually the wrong struggle. Let what you're looking at, let the landscape suggest a painting. That makes it a lot easier, and before you know it, you've got a perfect painting of that. Because that's the skill, that's the challenge. When there's too much demand of expectation in there for yourself, you will be dissatisfied. The true landscape painter is not a fair weather painter. Because the strength of painting, for me, is all the different ways of applying paint. Dabbing, strokes, dabbing, taking off, pressure of brush of application, sometimes hard, sometimes soft. So if I paint a cooked egg, I'll apply the paint differently than if I hold an uncooked egg. Because that brings in a variety. The cooked egg, I tend to have a little bit more pressure and water. So variety of application creeps into my paint. Well, this is what you call landscape, this is what you call portraiture. Try to show it. I would use yellows and blues to create the greens. And sometimes I would use a bit of the burnt sienna in there too to create a certain. But green is quite. So I often use a bit of burnt sienna to tone that down. Because you get that too. This is not a visuality that's from one distance to your eyes, but it disappears. But although you might work in the foreground and you can see details, but you can certainly suggest details and sharpness. But then you would work further on away. Well, because you focus on it, again you can see detail or certainly imagine the detail. But to make a landscape work, you have to be aware of that the further it goes, the less detail you have to introduce in the painting. So. Oh, the strength of green. When green is too strong, so that's more in the foreground, and then you call that aerial perspective. Yeah, things further away, because of the atmosphere, it tones down the color, and it tones down. It breaks down its presence.
So what color blue is that?
That's a cobalt blue hue, so it's a spectrum blue, art spectrum blue. But I tend to use and base my painting for a large degree on the earth tones, because they tone down. For me, like this for me is too much like a color, and then it might have a suggestion of anything else when it's happening on the. This yellow is so present for me. It's first of all it's yellow, and then it might be a lemon. But as my paintings are about variation of application, I use that element to the different drying stages of paint to get a different effect on the canvas. Because my skill, as I said, it's not so much being able to describe things in line, in structure, but my strength and intrigue is trying to capture something in the way you apply the paint. So it's very sculptural in that sense. Oh no! You see, whiteness. This is the most difficult stage of the canvas. The whiteness. And so what I always do, because nothing happens. Especially, and as I work under artificial light, there's a lot of light bouncing back from the canvas. So it's almost blocking off the suggestion of the spatial sense that you can create.
So what did you get? Black?
Oh, no, sorry. Raw umber. Very worthwhile color because it's not a color. And it got full of suggestive quality because of that. Because yellow on there is yellow first of all, and then it might be something else. Umber on there is not a color, so it's straight away suggests spatial. I use gum turps, pure gum turps. The smell is more pleasant than mineral turps, and it's slightly more oily, so it doesn't bite the luster out of paint that much. I use a combination of gum turps and mineral turps to I quickly stretched this canvas this morning, and there's some sort of, it's not quite sort of stretched. See that here? There are these pleats in there. But once you wet it with paint and turps, you do it to break the whiteness, to break the flatness, and to I do this as stages in my other paintings too. I tend to work on painting for a long time, not because they're not finished, but because I'm challenged by it, intrigued by it, and it offers me, it still has the potential to offer me awarenesses. But I learned to use. I didn't know these existed. These rubber things. So, but I had an eraser, and because one day brushstrokes like this or like that reflects the light differently. So I knew I had to get that dark chicken from a dark background by changing the reflective quality of the paint. And you can do that with an eraser too. One of these, you change the reflective quality of the paint, and then you could almost use just only black and still get an image out of it. So I learned a lot through that painting.
What about this one? Are you sure it's a sunny landscape?
I don't know, I have no idea. But look, there's always a way. You can always change. That's the beauty of oil, of paint. You can just try things, because you can always change it. Either by introducing another paint on top of it or taking it off. There's a sense of distance already happening. This being more even, which means it blurs whatever it might suggest as a visuality. It's blurred. It's not. The brush strokes are getting individuality here. What I use a lot too, but I didn't bring it, is just sandpaper. To break that surface, or white paint, or lighter color paint, to give it a restart. Or I use an electric sander. Just because if I sort of wet it, it becomes even lighter. But I always do that. So always, doesn't matter what subject matter. I always stain the canvas with raw umber before I really start to move in with the image. Probably, maybe that's one thing that I might have picked up from Rembrandt, but that was certainly the recognizable technique. Duchamp, Marcel Duchamp, the French artist, he calls the title of a work the invisible color. The title of the work adds to the painting. When he was dying, somebody asked him about dying. Do you think you go to heaven? And he said that to somebody else. I hope you'll be allowed to paint in heaven. That's what he loved to do. Beautiful, beautiful little portrait painting, but also landscape paintings. But very again, you see the dabbing takes it off a little bit, but again creating a little bit of individuality. So that would be then of the trees here in the front, but looking at this, these trees suggest too much around the tree, and they are far more pointy. See that they're more triangular. The ones in the front, those. So then I would probably do this. Change the direction of application. The foreground too, and they're the simple rules of perspective. And although I was really good at linear perspective, the mathematical perspective, well, you miss one step and that's it.
Yeah.
You're lost. That plantation up there on the top of the hill, I would sort of use the rag, different tools to apply the paints. You lose controllability. Fine brush, less control. A big brush, less control. A rag, even less control. Different tools to apply paint. To get again the strength is in the different ways of applying paint in my painting. So different tools, different ways of applying paint, and use different tools. Now that plantation at the back, there on the top of the hill, I would probably just use my finger and a rag, because more rounded, those trees, and you can almost go like. This will soften, and that comes from experience, because it looks too strong compared to that, so it comes forward. It hangs in front of my eyes, but I think it will soften when it gets drier. If not, I would do something with it, and I probably have to just looking at that. It's got more overlap, so I would start with the one at the top.
So would you keep using the same colour to do
No.
the whole?
Initially probably, yeah.
Then you do your other colours on top of all this.
Don't ask difficult questions.
Yeah, no, you're right. I was going to show you green. Anyway, those trees, it's got more overlap than this. It's too regular, so that means I have to go. I have to start with the top one and let them overlap. So I learn from that, because this isn't right. So you learn from that, and then you think, well, how can I change that? And not only that, it's got strong light fall. The drama of light fall becomes stronger the lower the sun, because then the shadow gets even parts with the light part. So I would probably just only use terps.
Oh wow, yeah.
See, light. No, well, you have to keep on finding clean bits of. I would just go over it with the whole painting like that. So if you imagine the apple to be there, and then with a rag and terps, I would bring that back. And because that painting under it is dry, and this paint is wet, that red will come back, but with a different value, and a value of far more sense of completion. By going over it and taking it away. Green, I was going to show. Green, wasn't I?
There's a lot of it out there.
Now, if I introduced this on here,
Yeah, it's not too bright. Sorry. So you're really mixing the colour on the canvas rather than...
I do. Look,
That's
hey,
really
it's just taking it off now too, and then it adds that value to it.
Oh, the subtlety is so good.
Anyway, so very playful, very playful. With that haziness, you get that layering of ridges. It's almost like that rice paper feeling. So that's one thing that you can. Oh, look, it's already happening here.
Yes.
So I can create that in a broad sense by creating different intensity of that raw umber, and for that I probably would take with the sky, try to take it off a little bit more.
Oh yeah.
Gee, it's starting to become beautiful edging of the distance, isn't it? And in Corot, the immediacy, the broad treatment to get the atmosphere first. So again, breaking away from that strong visuality, you can get that atmosphere. But that sense you can create by, in a very broad way. Time of the day. This is probably too dark, but then too dark because there's disappearing of color. And well, at nightfall, a lot disappears. But first of all, the color disappears. And that's, I think, as soon as you introduce color, or certainly also here, you change the time of the day. And this playful way of painting shows you possibilities. You learn from it constantly. No, not constantly, but often drastic treatment, harsh treatment, which has an element of introducing material, but also taking off material. It has an uncontrollable element in it. You're just part of the process, and that's often when you learn. Applying paint on canvas is done in no time, but accepting what you've done, that takes time. I would not use blue for the distance initially. I would use grey, a cooler tone. Well, I like brown because it's got a disappearing quality, but grey can have that too. See, I would use blue in that sense, or maybe. Use this. You give it creating by taking it off.
Immediately the right intensity.
Yeah. And that's the process of painting. Not